Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bed Tech Show. We're your hosts, Ben and Ethan, and we are here to discuss some very good tech news here at bedtime. Also, happy Christmas, Adam. Ben and I are really trying to really purport that term. I think it's a pretty cool term.
I
So,
like it. I
um,
like it a lot.
yeah,
Makes sense.
I
Makes
know.
sense.
And every time that I tell somebody that one, they just roll their eyes at me.
I
And
know. Or they're like, what are you talking about? Christmas Adam. I'm
yeah,
like, Christmas Eve, and then before Eve was Christmas Adam, Adam and Eve. Yeah,
it
anyway.
completely makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going for it. All right.
Good.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. We've got some great content for you today. And here we go. So, looks like Microsoft has been hit with another lawsuit here by video gamers to stop the Activision takeover. So, on Tuesday, Microsoft was hit with a private consumer lawsuit claiming that the company's 69 billion bid to purchase Activision will unlawfully squelch competition in the video game industry. The complaint was filed in federal court in California about 2 weeks after the U.S. FTC case was filed. And with that, Microsoft has got they've got some hurdles to go through again. This is pretty interesting that this lawsuit is blocking the um, ac- um, acquisition of Activision, and it was filed on behalf of 10 video game players in California, New Mexico, and New Jersey.
So dumb.
I find it really interesting. Here they say that it would give Microsoft a far outsized market power in the video game industry. And I find this really interesting because here you've got Microsoft, whose primary game monetization is Xbox. They are far behind Sony and Nintendo as far as the video game cap for their I guess what's the word I'm looking for for their audience.
Yeah,
Um,
like the market,
yeah,
right?
their market. They are so far behind Sony and Nintendo that theoretically this acquisition wouldn't even really make a dent in that cap. It would just help to somewhat level the playing field a little bit, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. Exclusivity. Sony prides themselves on exclusives. Rightfully so.
Right.
Sony's exclusives are phenomenal. I I applaud them every year because every year they have amazing exclusives. What I find interesting in this is Microsoft is acquiring Activision Blizzard. Okay, let's think about the popular games. Okay, we have the Call of Duty series, right? That's always going to be a hit. It's just always going to buy. It's like FIFA or NBA 2K or
Yeah.
there's always has the market that they're always going to buy every year. Okay, you have World of Warcraft, you have StarCraft, you have let's see, a couple of other RPG games. You have Overwatch. And in all honesty, besides that, it's maybe half a dozen games, and
Right.
Xbox isn't even making them exclusive. Even if
Right.
Xbox were to make it exclusive, it's half a dozen games. Like that is not on par with Sony with their exclusives. Maybe it's the same amount, maybe it's not. I just I think Sony has even more exclusives than that. And for some reason, these 10 gamers and a bunch of other Sony fans, they're just upset that they didn't get it. And as a result, they're like, oh man, bummer. I wish we would have made this acquisition since we can't get it. Let's try and block it. Oh, they're gonna take over the entire gaming industry. They're gonna take off a lot of games. It's like, dude, it's like a handful of games, man. Like,
I know. I mean, they're one publisher, and there's probably 100 other publishers out
yeah,
there as well. Acquiring one publisher, I mean, yes, granted, Activision is a major publisher.
mm-hmm.
However, it's just one publisher. It's not it's not the entire to me that it doesn't seem like there is any anti-competition in that
I don't,
piece.
I really don't get it. If Microsoft was buying Sony and everything Sony owned, then I would say, hold up,
Yeah.
that is a takeover.
Yeah,
Like
that is a take.
that's a gaming industry takeover. This,
Right.
like what they're saying is far outsized market power in the video game industry with the ability to foreclose rivals, limit output, reduce customer. This is it's so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
They've really been outlandish in their description here. I mean, yeah. So
Yeah.
dumb. I hope I hope the judge throws it out the door, you know. I don't think it'll happen.
The
They're
thing
just
that I
being funny.
fear
Go ahead, yeah.
is that so generally you have judges who are sitting on the bench. They have a lot of experience behind them, and they have been around the block a while. They may not be in tune with the
The
tech
gaming
space.
industry.
Yeah, the gaming industry, the tech space as it is now, and
Mhm.
how that affects it. And so their rulings may, while they could be sound in the law, may not necessarily be representative of the time that we are in now, and may not be representative of the gaming community itself.
Yeah, and to your point, you know, I don't practice law, but I've taken a lot of law classes in my undergrad and graduate degree, and I understand that that like precedence of what's happened in the past has a huge influence on how a judge makes a decision. Well, you can't make, there's no real precedence here. There's no real precedence of this happening in the past in the video game industry. You can't compare apples to apples with another industry of another takeover or of another acquisition that's happened in the past. This is pretty unique, in my opinion,
Yes.
at least.
Yeah, this is a unique situation. And also, Microsoft isn't even purporting to make any of these exclusive to Microsoft. Because
Yep.
to that point, I think it would not be in Microsoft's advantage to make anything their exclusive, because they have such a smaller player base to Nintendo and Sony. By doing that, they're going to significantly cut into their revenue, and that wouldn't be advantageous to them. So
Explain how they'll cut into the revenue. I think I have an idea of what you mean, but explain in case, like, what do you mean by they're going to cut into the revenue if they make it exclusive?
right, good question. So with that, right now Activision, they are selling on all three platforms: PC, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox. They have that revenue generation from that. If Microsoft were to make any of their games exclusive to just PC and Xbox, any revenue that they would gain from Sony would be cut at that point,
Yeah.
and they would not be able to have that market share in that aspect of the whole gaming industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's what I was kind of understanding when you said originally. It's really a balancing act of like, do we make these games exclusive, and as a result, we're going to drive up console sales or Game Pass sales, or do we leave it open to the other consoles and platforms that we just take a portion of that revenue, right?
Right.
And I think from what I've read in the past, especially with the new, with the new gen Xboxes, the consoles themselves, they don't make that large of margins. Like they're like
No,
razor thin margins.
no, I don't. I even think they're losing money on the Xbox Series X, and especially with this Series S, because that is so cheap in comparison to what you get for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the price to performance on the Series S far outpasses anything else that you could get on the market, especially if you were going to build a PC. There's no way that you could get anything that would output from a Series S into a PC at that price point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. So to even further the point that that you're making, and that I was kind of going off of as well, I think you're right. If they were to make these games exclusive, it's going to cut into their revenue share, because the idea is, oh, maybe drive up console sales, and it's like, you're not really getting any value there. You're getting value from your monthly subscription. So if they throw them on Game Pass, okay, you're going to get monthly subscriptions, but there's probably the sale of Sony consoles and Switches far exceeds Xbox consoles.
Right.
And the ability to have those games there and get a portion of that revenue, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. So
Right.
anyway, yeah, I think I understood what you were saying, but now I just want to, tie a bow around all of that and really flush out what are their options if they go exclusive versus not going exclusive.
Mhm.
What's the revenue split or maybe the risks of each side? But it sounds like keep them not exclusive. Consumers are going to like it, and more people are going to buy it, and it's more
Right.
revenue.
Exactly. So, this lawsuit to me seems to not have basis or standing. And
Yeah,
and I mean that I don't even think that these people have standing enough for that to make this case. So I'm
really.
hoping it gets tossed out before it
Yeah,
even goes anywhere. But it's just interesting that this lawsuit's been filed. I know Microsoft did recently um, submit a statement based on the FTC lawsuit that was filed a couple of weeks ago.
hmm.
Um, they've they've added to that, so it's interesting to see their argument to this side. A lot of Microsoft arguments has been what we've been talking about tonight. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how this goes forward.
yeah. Same. I honestly just think Sony is really just being like, you know what? If you're going to take Acquisition Blizzard, we're going to make it really hard for you, and we're going to make you spend more money on legal fees, so you guys can suck it. Like, it's a blow to Sony because they didn't do it, and as a result, they're just trying to get back. I think they know in the long run the deal's going to go through, but they're just trying to make it as difficult and as tedious for Microsoft as possible.
Yeah, and also I just thought, with Sony doing this, it gives them a lot of, uh, I guess, PR and some marketing for free, essentially by doing this. They get
Yeah,
in the news. We're talking about them, so
yeah, for
you
sure.
know them doing this, it gets them into the news. And
Yeah, it makes them
they
look like the good guy. Like, oh, we're not trying to do big takeovers like
oh
these
yeah,
guys. We make our own games and we only buy small producer game production companies. We're not doing what these guys, this is big corp over here, Microsoft. Those are that bad big corp guys, the one percenters that we want to take all the money from. Go after them. You know what I mean?
right,
It's really interesting. You're right.
yeah,
That's another bonus for Sony.
yeah. For sure, if Sony had this kind of money, they would have done this before. They would have done this hands down.
For sure.
So, all right. Another interesting thing that we have for you tonight is that TikTok is testing landscape videos and longer content in a major shakeup for their app. So, a lot of what they've been saying is that with their testing is that this feature would help directly compete with YouTube and with some other demographics of that may not be captured by TikTok.
Hmm.
And this is really interesting to me. I really apprehensive and think that this is kind of cringeworthy just because I think, a lot of these social media platforms seem to be more feature chasing rather than focusing on one unique characteristic that they have and making that better.
Yep, I agree. Take a look at Instagram. Used to be photos.
Yep.
Now they're trying to be everything. They're doing a
Everything.
little bit of TikTok with the reels. They were trying to be like YouTube with the video, like long video. Um, yeah, I agree, dude. I agree. It's just interesting. They're feature chasing instead of being unique, stay in their lane, and just be very, very good at that in their lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we've talked about like TikTok they have a really good algorithm on how they um, push content to their users. Um,
For sure.
so I jumped on the bandwagon finally, after 2 years, just last week, and just to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised. You select a few things that you're interested in, and the content that it delivers to you is actually meaningful.
Yeah,
And
I agree. It's refreshing. It honestly is refreshing. I go on Instagram and I look and I think this is all the same trending crap. It's the same audio, and half of the things that are pushed to me are ads.
yeah,
Granted, TikTok has a lot of ads, but TikTok is more refreshing, a lot more original content, a lot more educational content. I feel like, I don't know, it depends on what you're interested in. Anyway, I cut you off.
no, you're good. Yeah. So, I like that aspect of TikTok, and I really don't think that they should move this way to longer longer videos or landscape videos because they've really got something unique here. They they brought something in a very good time that capitalized on the pandemic and really made them popular.
Yeah. Yep. And I just don't think that users of TikTok are looking for long content, long form content.
Right.
Users want quick, short, fast, digestible content off the cusp. It's people like me that sit for a half hour on the toilet that are, that are consuming this information. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going on TikTok to be like, I want to watch a 10-minute video. No, I'm on YouTube while I'm working and I have YouTube in the background. I'm listening to, this long form content.
Mhm.
Um, Now, if they're trying to target you in the article, it says younger individuals, younger demographic. I don't like the idea of kids being on TikTok. I don't like it. It's not controlled enough.
Right. I agree. And, you know, with that, them trying to get into that younger demographic, I understand from a business decision why they would want to do this. It's a
Mhm.
way for them to expand their business as a way of them to evolve, because it might be harder to evolve with sticking with one thing and maximizing that. However, I think with the social media platform, it's bet you pick one thing and you make that the best that it is.
Mhm.
Because I understand now, like, why Instagram has and Facebook have gone with the Reels, YouTube has its Shorts. It's their way of competing with TikTok because they've seen how well TikTok has been.
Yep.
Um, but YouTube really has that cap on longer videos. I mean, they are the king of videos. There's so much content on YouTube, and for somebody to try and come in and compete with that is going to have a very tough time. And I think TikTok will significantly struggle if they start to go down this route.
I agree. Yep. 100% agree. I mean, I think TikTok, they probably want to test it out, see how it goes. Probably not going to go well. We'll see an update come through. We'll see the feature come through. And then probably 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, we'll see that feature gone.
Yeah. The way of the vine.
Yep. The way of the vine. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Another interesting thing that came through looks like Twitter started briefly banning links to Facebook, Instagram, and other rival social media.
Yeah, dude, I
And
saw this. I could not believe it.
yeah, I mean, so much going on with Twitter. We can't go a week without Twitter coming up. Nevertheless, it looks like there was that Twitter announced that it would be removing links to Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms for the main purpose whose main purpose was to promote content on those platforms. So that included links in Twitter bios and links to YouTube channels and profiles. And the company would even restrict the use of third-party aggregators. And funny enough, if you were willing to pay, you'd be able to use these. But then Twitter said that it would allow paid promotions for any of the platforms on its new prohibited list. So it seems to be that it wanted to move to a pay-to-play type of thing here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much backlash on this. I remember when this was implemented right around the time. I mean, and when I say right around the time, I mean, obviously this is all very recent, but it was right around the time that Elon posted his survey about stepping down as CEO.
Oh,
And
yes.
a lot of people are saying, yes, step down because you're doing stuff like this. But in all reality, I understand what they're trying to do. They're testing the market to see what kind of revenue streams could we potentially get. Okay. Is the market going to respond well to paying for your social media advertising? No, obviously. That's
Obviously not.
yeah, terrible idea. Everyone's going to say, screw that. I'm not doing Twitter. I'm not going to pay to be able to post what my at is on Instagram. I think that's so dumb. Freedom of speech, right? Like, what's up
Right.
with that? So, oh, there's freedom of speech, but then I have to pay to talk about my other social media page. Come on, it's
Yeah.
garbage.
I mean, it seems to go completely against what Elon initially wanted to do with this whole takeover of Twitter.
Yeah, you can tweet anything you want, freedom of speech, except if there's certain things that we want you to pay for, you can't tweet that. No freedom of speech there.
Right.
It's trash.
Counterintuitive for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought up the piece about, Elon tweeting about whether he should step down for CEO, because I recently read another article that Mr. Beast, who's a major YouTube influencer,
Yeah. I like him a
and
lot.
yeah, has awesome content,
Yeah.
a tweeted if he could essentially apply for the role of CEO for Twitter.
Oh, no way. That's
And
awesome.
and Elon responded and said, "It's not out of the question."
That's funny. I don't feel like Mr. Beast wants that position though.
I don't think he does either, but it would be pretty interesting to have him there. He's done a lot with his channels and really made a major business out of
Oh yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And you know, that knowledge I think could be transferred into anything and would be beneficial. So
Yeah.
definitely
Also, I also think just like his respecter of no person's approach, and I'm talking about Mr. Beast, he just doesn't care about money. Like he's just like, I don't really care about flashy cars and showing off or anything like that. He's like, I just want to help people.
Mhm.
And I think if we had that approach in a lot of other things in our lives, like if a lot of other CEOs had that approach,
Oh yeah.
they're just trying to get, tons of money and the big flashy cars, whatever, then I think we would have a lot happier people in the world, right? And a lot
Yes.
more fluidity, transparency, honesty, a lot more camaraderie, connection, and community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't think it'll happen, but it'd be kind of cool to have that some kind of approach that's like more philanthropic. With
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. And yeah, I'm kind of glad that Twitter stepped back from this hard policy and, reached out to the community to ask whether they should do this or not. And, I think they should probably take that approach a little bit more if they're going to make major changes that are going to be affecting people's use of the platform. They really need to reach out to the community and get more of a sense on how the community will react to it.
Yeah, I will say that is actually one of the beautiful things about Twitter is that the changes that are coming, they are trying to take an approach that applies or appeases the masses of the users, right? Whereas other other any other software, in all honesty, any other software or tech, they don't ask for surveys. At
Right.
least not on a grand scale where everyone can see the results across the board, right?
Yeah, they
And
ask like maybe one or two people and
yeah,
base it off of that.
yeah, fill out your survey, but then we don't ever see what the responses are,
Right.
did you like that ad? That's like what I see, on Facebook or whatever. And I think it's really cool that Twitter now, with Elon, they're just trying to make it work. They're just trying to make the platform work for the consumers.
Right.
Has he made the best choices? No. But it's a work in progress.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be 100% fixed right out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, you got to fail quite a bit to be able to really grow. So I think it's
Yeah,
going to be good.
I agree.
All right. In other news, we have 2023 tech trends.
Let's see here, 2023 tech trends. Let's go. Yes, this is actually more. So this is really cool.
I'll give you control for this.
Yeah, it's the article I really wanted to talk about was the point of this article is really about what's been happening with lasers, and there's been a lot of um advances, not a lot. There's been a couple advances with physics. And as a result, there's all this conceptual ideas floating around of what we could use it for. And so essentially, we've been working with lasers and different types of reactions to cause and create clean energy. Okay. And the idea is if we have clean energy that can constantly create new energy, that the idea is every action, there's a reaction, right?
Right.
Okay. And so the energy put into combustion or any kind of energy output, usually the energy input is greater than the energy output. But they've come up with this process with these different physics experiments where they've put energy input and the energy output is greater than what was input. And from there, you can recreate that reaction over and over and over again, and your energy essentially grows. And if not grows, it can maintain itself. Okay. Now, what can we do with that? Well, we can apply it to planes, for example, or this fusion, profusion, whatever. If you scroll down, the really cool part is this future of flying. Okay. So the idea is this plane, it can land, take off like a helicopter. There's no noise, there's no emissions. That's like the idea behind using this type of energy. And essentially, they're just trying to come up with different ideas on how you can use this type of technology. Now, again, this is all conceptual. It's in the beginning stages. It's not like this is currently happening right now, but it's still kind of cool to see,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's I wanted to post this because I thought, okay, if we have this clean energy, that'd be pretty sweet. Anyway,
Yeah, this really
what are your
gets to
thoughts
the
here?
this gets to the idea of like having self-sustaining energy
Yeah.
and being able to, really not rely on other sources. And I think that's something that we really need. I mean, you look at some of like concepts of just um being able to have self-sustaining energy and being able to completely be off the grid and have your own energy source and maintain your own energy source and keep perpetuating that energy source. And having this as the future of what's going to come, that really gets us a little bit closer to that. And where we're kind of in an energy crisis now, and having this at the future gives us a little bit more hope that, we can innovate and come up with some new things that will really help us have clean energy and get towards self-sustaining.
Yeah, I agree. That the downside of this is how much blockage is there going to be if this does become commercial, and if this does become uh, scaled out to an actual usable level in your day-to-day life, how much blockage or fight over control is this going to have? Because energy right now is massive, massive money pit. Not, I should say money pit. There's just a lot of money in energy.
Yes.
Oil, electricity, gas, any kind of energy. Now it's, hydrogen and electricity, right? That's big. Solar. There's just a ton of money in energy in any form. And if this becomes actually usable from like a consumer perspective, there's going to be a lot of fighting, I think, because people are going to lose money.
Yeah.
How does this shift the future? Is there going to be some kind of control over the information? I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so
It'd
interesting to
be
me.
interesting to see whether there would be that type of control or whether it would just end up being how the energy we have now would just be kind of that the same level, even though this would be a cleaner energy, whether it would really be a benefit for consumers or not if it's not highly regulated.
Yeah,
So that's really interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't even think about that. And I'm thinking, yeah, that, you know, where it is so young, this would be something that we'd want to get some good competition and get some regulation to make it better for consumers.
yeah, and maybe it's once it does become scaled out to be used, in a commercial aspect, maybe there'll be multiple companies building the parts and the instructions on how a normal user like myself could purchase this for my own home to live on my own with my own energy. And obviously they'd charge a lot of money, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, if this does become, if if the pursuit of this continues and this does become larger scale, it's going to change the world. Like, I know that sounds really cliche, but it will literally change how everything works, because everything is run off of energy.
Right.
And we understand certain types of energy are finite, and if this is sustainable, consistent energy, then that's going to change everything, right? Pretty gnarly to think about.
Yeah. This is pretty cool, though. Love this idea and hope that it will lead to something even better and a great innovation for the future.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Tony Stark in the Avengers Tower.
Yes,
Us all,
that's what I was thinking this whole time too.
yeah, yeah,
So,
pretty
so
cool.
yeah, I mean to have like a whole building be self-sustaining and completely off the grid, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. And it's like, I don't have to depend on anything.
Exactly.
My own energy source.
And then sell it to the military, and then there's a lot of money involved with that.
Yep.
All right. Last one that we have for you all tonight. Meta is settling the Cambridge Analytical scandal case for 725 million.
Yeah. Essentially, they were allowing tons of different third parties to access Facebook users' personal data, including this British firm, Cambridge Analytica. And it's the largest settlement in U.S. data privacy class action, um, in U.S. history. Um, the funny thing here, it says in that third paragraph, Meta, which did not admit wrongdoing, said it had revamped its approach to privacy over the past 3 years. It's like, we didn't do anything wrong, but we're gonna pay a lot of money and make some changes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like those two people can read between the lines. They did something wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And to be completely honest, anyone who believes these tech companies, that when they say that they're not using your data, they're not selling your data, they're not listening to you, they're not, watching you, they are. They are.
Yeah, they are.
There's no way they're not, right? Everyone's experienced that thing where they're talking about a lawnmower and then 10 minutes later they see an ad for Ryobi cordless lawnmower, right?
Yes.
And it's just ridiculous that there's still denial of this. Um, I mean, I understand from legal reasons they don't want to have to pay everyone out for it, but if you are surprised by this, I think you're pretty ignorant, right? They
Right.
they listen. So,
Yeah, it's interesting that, their phrasing that they said with this. I understand why they did that, because it's a way for them to not admit liability. If they were to admit liability in this, that opens the gate for anybody else to be able to capitalize on this as well. And you know, I I wish companies were just more transparent and more honest with what they do with it. I mean, I'd be more accepting for somebody to say, "Hey, we're going to use this information, we're going to sell it, and unfortunately, if you want to use our device, this is or our service, this is how it has to be."
Yeah.
I would be more willing to that than them saying that, like Apple, for instance, who says, "Oh, we really want protect your privacy, and we really respect it and want to make sure that it's your information." But they do stuff with their information too.
Yeah, we've
Uh,
talked about that.
and so, I mean, they may not do it to the extent that Meta and Facebook does. However, it's not that far off.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And it's not the first time we've heard of this. And at the end of the article, it talks about how Facebook had issues with the FTC. They had to pay 5 billion there. In regards to like their privacy practices, they paid 100 million to the SEC. 100 million is a drop in the bucket for these guys.
Yeah,
5 billion, that's a different story,
that's
right?
different. Yeah,
But 100 million, I mean, come on. SEC, like, yeah, you could be making bank charging those guys, you know? You could be like,
yeah.
no, give us actually 10 billion. And they'd be like, okay, we'll pay it, you know? So yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous that this happens. I agree with you. I think I wish they'd be more transparent and stick to with what they said instead of saying, nope, you guys are pretty private. We're gonna be keeping your information safe. And then we find out later on, no, that's not what they're doing at all. So
Yeah, it's I'm glad that they essentially got hit with this, because it's their way of paying back for something that they did wrong. So, it's interesting to see. Wonder if this will really change anything. They said that they've revamped their privacy policy. I don't know that it's going to really change anything, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think I don't think it's changing. I think they're just happy to pay. I think they're just Meta is so big and it's worth so much and they make so much money that I think they're just saying, yeah, we'll just pay this, you know. It'll maybe look bad on the financials, but it's a good excuse, to maybe take like a big bath or something,
Right.
drop our price, then we can buy our own price at a discount and then it'll go back up. Um, just for another piece of the article, this 700 something million, it's less than a tenth of what it spent on creating the metaverse last year. So it's like I said, drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
dumb.
this is nothing to them.
Yeah. So I really don't think Facebook cares. I think Facebook, they're doing the whole PR thing. Yeah. We had some things we needed to change, so we changed them,
Yeah,
and we're gonna pay this amount.
yeah.
Whatever.
So, yeah, we'll see how everything else shakes out, and see how much more money they can spend on the metaverse. And
Yeah.
see if that goes anywhere. All righty. Well, that's what we have for you all tonight. Thank you all for sticking with us and supporting our channel. We really appreciate all of our listeners who have listened to our show so far. All of your support really does matter to us. So please make sure you like this video if you liked it. And if you disliked it, that other button seems to work all right as well. Also, make sure you ringling that dingling button so you stay up to date on new content as it's posted to the channel. As always, stay classy and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Take care.